just want to preface this video by apologizing for the video and audio quality. I'm no videographer and I did have a lot of mishaps this go around. I decided to put out what I had anyways, even though it doesn't meet my perfectionist standards, so that you have the information as soon as possible. Welcome to another video with MD in Ireland. My name's Haley, and this video is going to be about ways to be productive while playing the waiting game. For those of you that are new here, I'm an American physician that moved to Ireland to work as a general practitioner, or a GP. And that process took quite a long time, about 9 months from A to Z, due to EPIC source verification, medical council registration, job hunting, and the actual move itself. And if you're anything like me, you might have issues sitting on your hands. And so these are ways that I stayed productive during that time. This is just a disclaimer to say that this video does not substitute any professional or legal advice, and please do your own homework, as things always change. So the first thing to do is to update your trainings. This is going to be very important for your CV and for your jobs. For me, that was the ACLS or the BLS training. And as I mentioned in previous videos, a lot of doctors here actually do IV or intravenous insertions and blood draws, those kinds of things. And so if you're going to be in a hospital setting, it might be worth looking into getting a training on that as well. The second thing that you're going to need is your police clearance forms. My spouse and I just walked into our local district police station and asked for a police clearance form. It's something very routine and they're aware of what this is. Basically, it states your name, your address, which is in the local district, and your any police record they might have on you, or none if you don't have one. And I would recommend getting it notarized. We were able to do that the same day in office, and we were in and out of there in like 30 minutes, and we only brought our IDs with us, and that was sufficient. The third thing that I did was contact my clinical references. These were folks that I chose to be my references for my job applications. They were all physicians in supervising roles from my job at the time, as well as my job in the last 3 years. I did provide them with my most up-to-date CV, as well as guidance on what Irish employers look for, as advised by my recruiter at the time. And please note that they don't need to write a letter right out the gate, because it does depend on the job as to what they want references to do, whether that be a letter or a form to be completed or a phone call. So it's more so to give them a heads up so that they're ready to step right in when it's needed. Fourth thing that I did was get my service letters. So this is something that's required by most of the employers, which is a letter from your employers from the last 3 years. So if it's been just one employer, you just get one letter. But if you've had multiple employers, you get multiple letters. This is a letter stating your name, your position, when you commenced and or ended a position with them, and what your standing with the company is, if you're in good standing or not good standing. Number 5. So the fifth thing that I had to do was gather proof of indemnity over the last 3 years and the status of any claims I might have against me. In Ireland, you as a physician are responsible for obtaining your own indemnity, or malpractice. It's just what it's called over here. So it's not done through your employer. Your employer can certainly pay for it, but you have to actually arrange it as the physician. In order to do so, you do have to provide proof of indemnity over the last 3 years of employment, as well as the status of any claims that you might have against you. In order to do that, I actually had to go and contact my employers over the last 3 years, ask who they had insured me with, and then contact that insurer to get that certificate of malpractice insurance, as well as any claims that they might have against me. And that is what I presented to my indemnity insurer here in Ireland, and that was sufficient. Side note, in terms of obtaining indemnity on your own, you can't actually do that until you have a job offer and a critical skills work permit is actually in your hands. And so I wouldn't really worry about finding your indemnity insurer here in Ireland until you actually are here, you have that offer, you have that permit, because it does depend on your situation which one you can go with. So focus more on getting proof of indemnity from the last 3 years with your American employers. Número 6. So for the 6th thing I did was gather all of my sensitive documents and make sure I have multiple notarized copies of each. So this included my degrees, my degree transcripts, my marriage certificate, and my medical licenses, any kind of license that I have, as well as my passport, etc. All my sensitive documents I had multiple notarized copies of. Step 7, pets. I'm doing this take as a voiceover because unfortunately the video recording did not work. So if you do hear any background noises, including my pets, you know why. Just to be clear, I will have a video later on detailing specifically what we did with our pets, but I did want to briefly mention it here because it is a part of that prep period. We have 5 pets, which is coincidentally the maximum amount of pets that you're allowed to import into Ireland. So that worked out well for us. When we did the process, there were 2 main things that we needed for each of our pets. One was 2 successive rabies vaccines that were 1 year apart. Whether or not that they were the 3-year or the 1-year rabies vaccine, they had to be 1 year apart with no lapses, as well as all of our pets being microchipped. We also had to find our nearest USDA certified vet and get a health certificate completed by the USDA certified vet within 10 days of the flight. Now, this is a bit pricey. It cost us almost $3,000 to get these health certs. Again, I'll go into it in a future video. But with all of this, we were able to fly our pets with us on the plane. We have small pets, so they're able to fit in the cabin with us, and there was no quarantine required. They came right through the airport with us and came right home, so it was good. I do recommend, if you are intending on flying with pets, either to Ireland or other places, to check out APHIS, aphis.usda.gov. It's a website that details all the things that you need to know, the most up-to-date information. It's also how you can find your local USDA health certified vet, which is what is required to complete the health certificate for Ireland. Number 8, getting ready to fly. The wait was a long time. We know that. I've talked about that. But the actual move snuck up on us. That's because I gave the recruiter a 3 to 4 week availability window, which meant that when she was talking to potential employers, giving them my CV, she was stating that I was able to start work within 3 to 4 weeks of them hiring me. And so we needed to be ready to fly. Our first stop was to our local library. And so we found several different books about becoming an expat, whether that be in Ireland or elsewhere, that were extremely helpful, and I'll link those books below. They talked about everything from preparing your move, the move itself, to actually post-move, once you're in a new country, what to do. And so we did our homework, right? And for us, getting ready to fly meant downsizing our belongings, because shipping is very expensive. It's actually cheaper for us to bring the majority of our stuff as checked baggage on our flight. We had something like 12 pieces of ginormous luggage with us rather than ship the majority of it. We had to get ready for our car to sell, because actually importing a car is quite expensive too, and it wasn't worth the cost, and so we ended up selling our car. Plus, Ireland drives on the opposite side of the road with the opposite side steering wheel, so it wasn't worth it either. We were renters, so we did not have to worry about selling property. And then, of course, we were contacting shipping companies for different quotes. I also recommend this Facebook group called Americans Moving to Ireland, which was really helpful for the logistical aspects of the move, to bounce ideas off other Americans who are doing the same. Number 9, money, because we all need more of that. This is the part about financial assets. This is the stuff where I learned a lot of mistakes, and I'm hoping to save you from making the same ones that I did. So if I were you, I would start consolidating my bank accounts and closing the ones that I don't need before I even leave the country, like leave the US, because it is really difficult to close accounts once you're in another country. It is much easier when you're physically going to that branch and closing the account. I would also make sure to add on a spouse if you have them, as someone who can edit or cancel accounts as well, because that can make it so much easier if you have a trailing spouse. So consolidate those accounts, close the ones you don't need, cancel subscriptions you don't need, save money, sell things that you don't need. And then in terms of actually moving the money to an Irish bank, the issue with Ireland, and this might apply to many other countries too, is you really can't have an Irish bank account until you move to Ireland and you have a proof of address in Ireland and a PPS number, which is your taxable ID number, basically your social security number, which you don't really get until you're in Ireland for 3 or 4 weeks. And so it is very difficult to do that. So you're going to have to move that income in the form of cash predominantly, at least that's what we did. And know, of course, that there are limits with how much cash you can bring into a country without declaring it, for example, to the TSA, but bringing in euros directly, cash, as well as traveler's check. But please be aware, because this is a mistake that we made as well, each receiving bank, my receiving Irish bank, has a limit for how much they will take in a traveler's check without having to do a check verification where they send that check back to the receiving bank to then have it deposited maybe 3 or 4 months later. So I would try to make sure to call that Irish receiving bank, whichever one that it is that you choose, before you decide to pull a traveler's check, so that you don't exceed that amount, so you actually have that amount usable to you, rather than having to sit and wait for 3 to 4 months for it to be verified. Lucky number 10, getting ready to land. So we talked about the flying part. This is the landing part. So the things that you're going to need once you're in Ireland is a roof over your head and a way to get around the country. So transportation, right? So in terms of accommodations, there is a housing crisis in Ireland. I'm not going to lie. We're going to have a whole video talking about that a little bit, but more in depth. A lot of people actually do end up using relocation agents. Again, that's on that Facebook group that I mentioned. People will talk about ones that they recommend for different regions of Ireland. We did not. What we ended up doing was an Airbnb for a month while we were settled, because most people in Ireland, true to the Ireland kind of fashion, don't really respond unless you're physically in front of them or on the phone. And so most landlords or property folks won't take you seriously until you're physically in country. We did end up perusing a bunch of sites. It is expensive in Ireland, nothing compared to where we were living in a city in America, but it is expensive compared to the rest of Europe in terms of rent. So please do prepare for that. And peruse the property sites, put out feelers, that kind of thing. The other thing, the transportation piece. So unfortunately, Ireland does not recognize our driver's licenses. So we do have to get what's called a international driver's permit we did it through AAA. And it's valid only for 12 months, right? So from the date that it's issued. So I wouldn't get it issued until you're about to actually leave, because then you will have less than 12 months to get an Irish driver's license. You do actually have to go through the formal process of getting a learner's permit, testing, doing the driver's test to finally get issued with a driver's license, because they don't recognize our US licenses. So there is a process there, and it will take at least 6 months, if not more. I will again talk about this in a future video, but I would work on getting an international driver's permit. We did it through AAA. You don't have to be a member to do that, and have it issued near the date that you actually expect to fly. Future videos, I will focus a bit more on what to do once you're in country, and actually hitting the ground running here in Ireland to try to get that bank account, that PPS number, the accommodations, the transportation, all of that settled. But I do want to say, at least to give yourself a bit of a buffer, because it does take time. The government is slow. You do have to apply to get appointments for a lot of these cards and the indemnity takes time. So give yourself at least, I would say, 3 to 4 weeks of just being in Ireland before you actually start work, because it's going to take time to get all of that set up, and you do need it before you actually start employment. So give yourself that buffer so that you aren't going crazy pulling out your hair in the future. Thank you for watching another video with MD in Ireland. I will see you on the next one, and please don't forget to like and subscribe.
Look at these lovers. No.